You ready?
Yeah.
Hey there!
Sure, would you?
What? Well, hey there, Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCGFAM show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Your questions today. Scott. What's up?
Bob.
Nothing. I got questions. If you're ready.
That's what you say.
Yep. First one's from Steven.
Good employees that like to pick orders?
I am terrible with that sort of thing.
I know, I wouldn't hire you for that. That's stupid. You wouldn't be able to do it.
Like, no, couldn't. Well, no.
Circles around you.
Yeah, no, not my thing.
I lost Valente yesterday after 10 years.
Oh, no. Is he on to bigger and better things?
No, he's chasing his family down into Northern California.
Oh.
His wife didn't like the cold of Oregon, so she'd rather live in Bakersfield, California. I'm like, oh, so that's going from like, the nice cold oasis to hell.
So 30 degrees or 130 degrees with the smell of cow shit.
The smell of cow shit and,
Yep.
a plethora of great job offerings where this guy had climbed the ladder all the way to the management position in our warehouse. So it was a sad day. And basically
geez.
now I'm being Valente. I work the floor picking everybody's order. I have a feeling we might see him in the next 2 months.
Probably
He may
so.
not be able to do it, and maybe he'll move back. I'm holding his job. He's worth every penny keeping him around, but man, it's a hard day. It was a tough one yesterday.
I was thinking, Stockton is the place I was thinking of with the smell. At Bakersfield, I don't remember the smell.
I think they're just downwind from Bakersfield. I think Bakersfield only has like 2 rodeos and more shit farms.
I've worked there before. I did cable down there. It was not to disparage anyone's hometown. Mine's a little funky too, but not great. I was down there. You know Joseph, right?
You don't live there anymore.
You know Joseph, right? From Oregon Roads, Joey works with.
Oh yeah.
Me and him are coming back up, and we stop in Stockton to eat, and we get out of the car, and he says, "I don't suppose there's a lot of al fresco dining here."
Yeah, no. If you stick around till 3 in the afternoon, everything's coated in dust.
Yep.
Yeah, every day's a dust bowl in Central Valley.
Great. So, Steven says, whoa, it just skipped up on me. Where do I find and buy this new nectar for the gods nutrient called Chimera? Thanks. What's the story? Go and get my water. Go ahead. Well, what's the story? I'm coming back. You won't talk until I'm back. I'm back. Chimera, what's the deal?
Oh, hey, there you are. It's in registration right now. We're still hammering through that. We've got it in about 12 different states. We're moving through quick. We're waiting. Once Oregon approves our prelim label, we're going to put a preliminary label on it and get it available on OCGFAM. And Oregon stores can start picking that up.
Okay.
A few guys have samples and rather large samples, like Nathan Hubbard over at Indoor Earthworm.
Okay.
A few of the stores who buy direct from us are starting to get the samples in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, until it gets registered, we can't put a label on it. We can't throw it out to the world. We're really pushing hard on this one because we want it to get out before mid-flower season or before this outdoor flowering season begins. It's going to be able to buy people a little bit of time to get that heavy, aggressive vegetative feeding going on their outdoor, and then right a few weeks before they're getting ready to do the flowering, we can test all of our numbers, and then that Chimera should be available. Worst case, it will be available all through Oregon, but hopefully as these states start lining up, we'll be able to start shipping it to all the stores in those states.
So it doesn't have to be in 50 states, 51 soon, but it has to be just, you can ship it to one state. You don't have to worry about it being in every single state.
As long as the state is registered, that's what, it's safe to ship it to those states. And some states don't even require registrations, but the 25 that we're heavily in all require it, so we stick there.
I'm sorry, I'm in a good spirits. Ron White, the comedian, got busted for less than a gram of weed in Florida. And he says, I've been going to Florida for years. I didn't know there was laws there.
Florida man.
Anyway, but they're pretty sticky about that sort of thing, aren't they?
Where, Florida?
Florida, yeah, the registration thing.
They're not. I mean, they're relatively reasonable. California's brutal to work with. I mean, they changed their laws on the month. So this week it was great. Now we have to change all their labels next week because they decided to change the concept. So, and the hard part is that none of them are the same. So you hit the ugliest states first. You know, as long as Oregon says we're approved, then we'll do a preliminary label and then change the label 6 months from now before we go to print.
Okay.
But at least we'll be able to sell it with a generic label while we're finishing up. It can take 3 months to a year. I mean, shoot, 4-shot's still in registration, and it's because there's a microbial claim, there's an NPK claim, there's all this crap. So it's just not fun. Being a small company against all these humongous beasts who are literally just trying to spit us all out onto the floor and run us over, they make it really hard for us little guys to get ahead, which is fine because all of our customers really hate those guys, and so they keep us going and they keep us supporting us. So we'll keep fighting the Goliaths out there and hope that we win.
So is it liquid or dry? I haven't seen it. I mean, what is it?
Chimera?
Yeah.
That's the one we've been talking about on this stupid show for like frickin' 3 months.
I've never seen it though.
Is it one shot, but like limestone version of one shot.
So it's like, is it gonna
identical to one shot?
Yeah, so is it going to be in a giant bag like you use quite a bit of it, or is it a little tiny thing, or what are we talking?
It'll be 4 pound, 12 pound, 25, 50 in bulk. So depending on your need of your applications and how much you're treating, most people will probably buy the 4 and 12 pounders in our crews. And then, well, that's not true. I've already worked with one farm that we're going to make sure they get it because I know what their soil's doing. So we'll get them, tonnage of it by June to get applied. So when their plants are starting to show the sexing, then we'll be able to have all their pH in line for the rest of the bloom cycle.
So, and is it a nutrient as well as it's like a 4-shot that's like a fortified 4-shot?
We're calling it the bloom enhancer because if you try to make a pH claim on something, now you're dealing with a whole other regulation.
I got you. Yeah.
So, Olympus Up was one of the hardest products for us to register. Yeah, it's pH up, that's why. So if we had just said liquid limestone, it would have been no problem, but then everybody would be feeding. It's like, why is my pH 15? Like, well,
you need the liquid limestone.
Yeah, not good. So with this one, it's primarily limestone, but we put in the porcine, fine ground porcine, fine ground herc. We pelletize it all together, and we have made it into a time release. So it'll be a 060 bloom enhancement. Actually, it's a 061, so it's got a pretty decent potassium and then a good magnesium load as well. So we're claiming all that on there. You'll be able to see it on the label. But yeah, it'll be a bloom enhancer. And the reason why I want that is most people that add this in the early veg, and we'll like really nail this down and make it clear when we get closer to launching it. But if you use it at the beginning of the veg, your pH will be too high and your plants will kind of struggle because the pH will be in the 7.
Okay.
When you first apply it. So if you're like in number 4 soil right out of the bag, after a few waterings, your soil will probably be about 6.4, 6.5 all through veg. So if you apply it right at the end of veg, right before you go into bloom, then you're building in that alkalinity, you're building in the calcium, you're building in the phosphates from the porcine and the bone meal, and then they just start immediately consuming that. And then now you have a bloom food, you have your pH corrected, and then you can carry that all the way through the end of bloom.
So it's got a reparative level of something to it of where you're going to want to use it right in the middle instead of using the start. So it's going to fix some stuff up.
We put a tiny bit of dolomitic lime in there, which everybody will say, wait, you always say don't do that. I don't like dolomite lime as your fix for your pH and your alkalinity in your soil. You didn't select it.
I'm sorry. I got it. Are you looking at me? Can you see me?
I can see that whole. I can see from the skull.
Okay, I'm on the right screen. I
can see you, but I can also see all my image.
Oh.
I mean, when you did your menu, I could see all that. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me.
Okay, if it doesn't bother you, because I didn't want to have you distracted by the screen because there's like a delay to it or something. I don't know what the deal is with that. Because
there's a tiny bit of dolomitic lime, and the only reason why we add that is because when you're at 5.6 or 5.5 and you're at the end of veg and you're starting to pan it and you have 9 weeks of flowering to go, well, that little bit of dolomite will go 5.5 and go 6.2, and then the limestone will start kicking in 6.2, 6.2.5, 6.3,
Okay.
6.4. By the mid-bloom, you should be at like 6.5, 6.6. We should be finishing out 6.5, 6.6, 6.7.
So,
And then you're going to see that alkalinity piece. You're going to see the drive. You're going to see the amount of food that the plants are going to actually be able to absorb because you've built in the pH and alkalinity slowly leaching throughout the entire bloom cycle.
will this work for anyone, even if they have good water? There's
no point. I mean, if
Yeah.
you have, like right now, I have a customer. He brought up his water. It's 330 parts per million alkalinity.
Mm-hmm.
His soil pH is 6.9 and 250 parts per million in the slurry.
Okay.
Yeah, you're doing great. You do not need Chimera. You don't need 4-shot. You don't need any.
Good
of
to
this
go.
stuff. You
Yeah.
need number 4, and you need 1 shot, and
Yeah.
you're good.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's ideal is make sure you're slurring this. You know, people all say, "Oh, it's another nectar product. We're going to run out and buy it." Why? Don't. This is not a fix-all for everybody. This is the fix-all for anybody who has bad water and they lose their pH in the bloom cycle. This is for you. If your water's awesome and your plants get all the way through and your slurries at the end are in the mid-6s, you probably will never need Chimera and you'll never need to enhance that alkalinity because it's already built into what you're doing.
How does the Chimera compare to the 4-shot?
Well, the 4-shot is number 4 soil with a bunch of 1-shot, a bunch of limestone, and a bunch of the access perlite, the diatomaceous perlite that gives us the silicate. It gives us the
okay.
the diatoms, and it gives us the water hold capacity. What it's lacking is we don't put in dolomite in 4-shot.
Okay.
And we don't put in the porcine powder and any more bone powder. So it's the same recipe as number 4 and 1-shot. So for with an enhanced limestone, but the limestone isn't calcium 96 or the micronal lime. It's not the super fine powder that gives you that front-loaded pH and then backs out, still becoming acidic by mid-bloom. Instead, it's mostly limestone, so it's going to get you all the way into bloom and then maintain that pH all the way through as the limestone is slowly dissolving.
So you're thinking with the 4-shot is that it was more able to handle the alkalinity situation, but not a repair to it. Just the 4-shot was going to be just number 4 with 1-shot in it. It has drifted a little bit from that to something to further address alkalinity. Is that correct?
Yeah, before anybody really got their hands on it, we did that fix only because, you know, that farm up north we've been working with, that's where we developed 4-shot was, you know, no matter how much he could feed, he was always ending up less than 200 parts per million in his slurry tests. So his goal was not only was he having alkalinity and pH issues, but once we fixed those, then it became a hunger issue. So we took his favorite soil and we threw 1-shot in it to create a backing nutrient, and now it's just like the numbers couldn't be better. I'm going to be up there on Tuesday. I'll get some videos of what we're seeing up there and the lighting they're using and the controllers they're using and all the pieces that are making this thing. But I mean, the reports back and from what I've seen and what I've consumed from this farm it's a different level of what it was last month. I'll tell you what.
So if I'm using the 4-shot, if I need 4 bags of soil, would I get 4 bags of 4-shot or 1 bag and 3 bags of number 4, or how does that go? Or is that a dumb question?
Well, no, I mean, it's not at all, because I think if you don't have problems, what I tell people is if you need 4 bags of soil, you're going to start in 1 gallons and then you're going to end up in 5-gallon pots. Buy a bag of number 4 because it's going to be pH regulated and corrected for your vegetative stage. Transplant into the 4-shot about a week before bloom, and then bam. Now, if your water sucks, start with 4-shot because your shitty water is going to knock the alkalinity and pH right out, and then they're going to just balance the whole way through. So it'd be fine to do it that way.
Okay. We have more than one question, so I should let this go probably.
We'll come back to it when we get closer to releasing.
I got it. Okay, yeah. All right. Chris Salty Banana 77. I am running a few 120 days plus flowers. How should I balance their need for nitrogen? Pegasus Potion?
That's a good way, yeah.
So, do they need nitrogen?
Who?
His 120 day plus flowers.
He flushes for 120 days?
I think they flower 120 days. 120 day flowering.
120 days.
They go for 120 days before they flower. That's a lot, right?
Well, I mean, let's see. 70 days would be a 10-week flower time.
Yeah. Well, 100.
Yeah, that's 50 days veg, 70 days bloom. So if he's doing a 50-day veg, then probably I would almost recommend for efficiency, for ease, I would put feather meal in my potting soil. I just buy a box of feather meal. I put in a couple, maybe a tablespoon or an ounce per gallon of soil as like an additive. And that'd be a nice slow release nitrogen that's going to carry all the way through probably the third or fourth weekend of flower. If you don't want to put a feather meal into your potting mix as just a cheap additive, then Pegasus Potion, easily just increase that throughout the entire veg cycle into the first week or two of bloom. Then go ahead and cut that out and then run the rest of the nutrient for the flower cycle. But Pegasus would be your way to go. Medusa would be in addition to that, adding more nitrogen, or Athenas. Keeping them foliar fed with Athenas and Pegasus will keep nitrogen in the tops of that plant the whole way through.
So, do you think he has is there a genetic that goes longer, or is he vegging longer to get more?
I don't think there's a 120-day flower plant, unless it's like, I don't even know, like an orchid, but but I think I bet you he's probably a 10 or 11 weeks, so maybe 77 days total for flower, and the rest would be in a veg cycle, which really, I mean, 5 to 6 weeks of veg isn't all that unheard of.
Okay.
So I wouldn't doubt it.
Does longer veg lead to more need for nitrogen?
Well, yeah, because the plant, I mean, if you're in a little pot and you grow them for 14 weeks, then there's nothing left in the pot, so they're going to need more nitrogen. They're going to need more everything.
Everything, because they're going so much longer in a small pot.
Yeah.
That's the limiting factor to it, and that's why you're pumping it up. I got you. Okay, awesome. So that?
Yeah.
Okay, NorCal Nopar. Hey, boss. Please help. I'm having an issue with purple stems and yellowing leaves with my crop currently in week 5 of veg. Thought it might be lockout due to the fact that I don't have any newt burn symptoms, burnt tips, etc. My ppm of my runoff is showing 5K, but when I do a slurry test, as you show, I'm in the 500 range. Please help. Don't want my girls to suffer. With the purple stems, is that even involved with the yellowing leaves? Do you think those two are related?
There's a potential. There's a chance. There's maybe not a chance. I mean, there's a few more questions that need to be asked for this one. So I would recommend for them to give me a call, or I mean, not a call. I won't answer. Email me at thebeard@organsonly.com.
having Scott's phone number will not help you.
Questions, and we'll get back to the bottom of it. I'm seeing a lot of genetic variances. All purple stems don't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with the plant.
Okay.
There has been traditionally, a phosphorus lacking, or a phosphorus toxicity, or a magnesium lacking. There's a few different reasons why plants have purple stems. A lot of times they just grow out of it. The yellowing, I'm guessing, I don't see any pH comments in this this message. The 500 range with 5,000 on the bottom, that tells me that it's probably starting to build up, so a good flush probably would help a lot.
Okay.
But yeah, I would want to ask a lot more questions.
It's a back and forth kind of thing for
you good advice, and then we can attack the purple stem versus the yellow plant or yellow leaves. But yeah, thebeard@organsonly.com. Hit me up, NorCal, and we'll go back and forth and get some more info. And then if we get to a good conclusion, then we'll bring this back up on the show and how we concluded this one. But I get this question a lot, and it's often a pH issue. It's a temperature issue. It's it's a pushing too hard of a certain nutrient, but they all, come back just in the transition from veg to flower, or there's 100 variables here.
Is it often that you have multiple issues, or that the issue is not what you think the issue is, that kind of thing, and that's what you get from the back and forth?
Well, I think that's it. We both get to ask questions until we discover your environment, your soil, your conditions, and what could be causing it, because there's never going to be a blanket answer for here's the problem and here's the reason. There's never going to be that with gardening. There's a million aspects that could mess things up. And it's funny because it always ends up like, oh, my pH pen's been shot for 6 weeks. And it's not, it's, and that people, I get a lot of throwback when I ask that question. So when was the last time you calibrated your pH pen? They're like, it's always been calibrated. It's been about a month. And it's like, okay. And then they come back 3 weeks later. Man, I'm sorry, my pH pen was 2 points off. And you're like, I don't mean to ask you because I think you're stupid. I'm asking you because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I should probably calibrate my pen. It's been a month. You know, it's the simple things we look over because they're so simple that we start getting to the, you know, what is that? Can't see the forest through the trees or some crap. So, yeah, that's where we're at. We're in the forest.
Turn it off, turn it back on.
Bags on our heads and we're running.
Nice.
Not smart.
You a big Mopar fan? Chryslers, Plymouths, any of those? No?
You see what's behind my building?
No.
You know who's behind me?
Oh, what's his name? Graveyard Cars.
Graveyard Cars, you know what he is.
He's a big Mopar guy.
He is
huge.
He the Mopar guy?
Well, I would say so because he does like those period correct, you know, full on restorations where he's like,
tell you the freaking color code paint of the 1976, you know, Super Bee and tell you it's ridiculous what that man. But you couldn't ask him like, hey, what color is that turf out there? He'd be like, magenta.
So,
give me a burger.
I don't get though when you have to have the correct center pull hose clamp. It seems so precious.
$60,000 Super Bee from you, and I want it factory correct. It better have the damn right.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
It's like when I took my car to the dealership to get an oil change, and they're like, "Yay, we don't have that oil filter for this car, but we'll go down and get an AC Delco one."
Whoa!
Well, like, I don't care. I don't run over myself. I can't see what's underneath there. And then the mechanic calls me. He's like, I'm not putting that shit on your car. He goes, I'll get you a car to drive tonight, but I'm not putting that filter on your car. Like, okay, thanks. I drive a truck.
You know, it goes both ways. I just feel like people are too precious about stuff, but hey, it's their money.
If you're going to be the guy, though, now
you got to be the guy. You got to be the guy.
He gets $150,000 a car, where if you don't really care about the part, that's a $45,000 car. There's a mechanic, and then there's a guy who literally brings back to prestigious 1976 level. And I don't like anything about it. I mean, I put up a sign behind my building once because he was filming all his shows, and then he blacked out my fucking posters because he didn't want to give me free advertising. So I'm like, man, I don't really like it. But
I respect you.
I respect for anybody who knows that much about
their particular thing.
He's a master at it, and his back lot makes you drool. If
something else.
I love Mopar.
Yeah.
There's 7 Super Bees sitting behind my building right now, waiting to be built.
You may not see one your whole life, and he's like just sitting back there. Crazy, lined up with all the crazy wings, just like, it's something else.
Dude, I saw a Japanese dude come in and buy one of those things right off his lot. I mean, they commissioned him to build it. But I watched them build that over a year and a half, and then I watched the episode where the guy came by and picked it up, and they shipped it back to Japan. But, I mean, that was upwards of 1.5. It was incredible.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. I mean, you could have bought one of those cars for... they took some of those Superbirds, and they made them back into regular Chargers because nobody would buy them when they were new. And now, what's a $250,000 car? I don't even know. Crazy.
Oh, all factory original? Yeah.
Maybe more. Million.
Barrett and Jackson.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Yeah, all right.
Not my world.
No, not me. No, I'd rather have a fake one. KGhost0311. Hey, Bob and Scott. Question for Scott. I just checked my town water report, and it showed 160 to 185 ppm sodium and about 250 ppm total, but my tap is closer to 550. I couldn't find out how much calcium content, but it had many other...
elements.
I understand, yeah. Should I blend this with my zero water, have the same problem as Pig, just trying to fix this for good? Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, I think maybe go on and get a screenshot of that water report and email it to me, and I can see what else is causing your issues.
Would this be like a water softener thing or something maybe he's got going, or?
Either he has, I'm wondering, because town water reports, you got to look at the date and the time that they took it, because if they took it in August versus January, those are 2 different water samples, and they become different concentrations depending where you are located in the country. So I think the biggest thing, 550 is pretty, I mean, that's a lot of parts per million if that's what's coming out of your tap, and they're saying 160. No, they're lying. I mean, or they haven't updated their water testing recently.
And you don't know who tested it, how they tested it, why they tested it, what agenda they had when they were testing it, or if that's even the water for the whole town. Who knows?
Yeah, or if that came from Canada and they're just so embarrassed like Flint that they're afraid to even like show you the water system. So they're like, here's the stuff we get from over here. You don't get to drink that. So I would get more info. I mean, honestly, just looking at the numbers you're telling me from your tap, I would definitely be splitting that in half with your RO or distilled, because all you're going to do is dilute that intensity down, the sodium down, and that's going to give the nutrients a better chance at working. Limestone will be his friend, I'm sure. I would love to see what his slurry numbers look like after a couple weeks of feeding that. I'd be curious on what his slurries are, but I would definitely cut that 500 in half with zero water.
So you take the town water report as a guideline, your actual slurry, or you're testing your water, you'd be testing your water yourself at the source.
Yeah, I mean, the simple stuff. I mean, what he can get from the town, at least it tells us,
what the
how much magnesium, how much calcium, how much, all the metals are in there. But at home, we'll just be able to tell the pH and ppms. But that 500, that's too hot to start. You definitely want to dilute that in half.
Okay. Gun Nut Tony. Friend of yours? Probably so.
Do you have ammo? Is it cheaper than I can find?
Ammo Nut Tony. That's who we're looking for.
Yeah. Gun Nut Tony, don't need you. Ammo Nut Tony, if that's your hey, come give me a call. I'm looking for 9s and 40s.
Guns don't kill. Bullets do. Can I use Aphrodite's extraction as a foliar spray?
There is elements to it that would be brought into the plant. It's so available and so broken down. As far as efficiency, when I would be using Aphrodite's, I wouldn't be foliar feeding Aphrodite's in flour myself. But as energy and as a carbon source, you could foliar feed it. It goes against our calcium concept, but it's sucrose and dextrose so broken down that it could be available through the foliage. But really, it's most efficient in the root zone.
Okay. So you could,
I wouldn't
but
use
would
it
you?
as my Bloom Chaos balancer. I wouldn't be like, Aphrodite's foliar, Bloom Chaos spray. Oh, everything's fine, because I don't think that would be your balance.
Okay. Diamond Sky. Bob, what is that green tip bottle that you use that has an upward angle head? I've seen it in a couple of videos.
Anal douche. Bob enjoys his anal douche. You should see his pink one with the rabbit ears.
I like to stay fresh.
Have you ever had that not so fresh feeling in the morning? Why, sure. Here's my double-headed pink bottle with the inverted tip.
They don't sell those on the website, do they?
Not yet, but we're trying to create a new foliar feed.
I don't love that bottle.
What bottle is it?
It's it's got that little twisty green thing on the end, and you can so that you can shoot underneath the things, which I get that, and I like it, but it was free.
Here's the deal with those. At one point, those were made in America, and they worked really good.
Yeah.
Plastic pressure head inside them worked, and then they outsourced them. They became kind of not so great then.
So you don't love them. What do you use for foliar feeding? You just use a regular bottle and you get down low, or what do you do?
That foggy, was it Aero Mixer thing? It's got a gallon tank. It's got a fog head and it's motorized. And it shoots.
Good Lord!
Yeah, but you foliar feed in like 5 minutes. And actually, for like bloom cast, I keep in a regular old spray bottle of quart, and I take my hand up the plant, holding the foliage up and go.
Yeah.
Like the barber does with your hair.
So is this thing you're talking about, does it fog it? Does it make it vaporize the stuff?
Yeah, but it's like
not with heat, it just uses pressure.
Machine that
I got you.
literally, it's loud, it's annoying, but it's a fogger nozzle with a hose on it.
What do you think about those chugga things?
Well, those are cool, and a lot of people get those, like the solo thing with the cup, and so they can spray, and those are great.
Yeah.
I'm lazy. My hands get tired foliar feeding too much.
Me too. Getting older. All right.
That's the excuse.
Sometimes I just quit right in the middle. Screw it.
Yep. Yeah. And I just throw it away and I go buy another one.
Adam Budd. Okay, so this is my first grow with nectar of the gods, for the gods, of the gods. So my question is, when watering a plant in a 3-gallon pot, how much water do I give? Do I water until I have runoff, or just enough to where I'm barely getting runoff? So, a lot of that matters probably on how often you water, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, generalizing the question, should I water to runoff every time? It's up to you and how your plants are growing and all. I mean,
your soil.
I hate making comments or statements to these questions because I don't want people to be like, well, that's the way it is. And it's not. I know guys who water to 20% runoff every single time they water and feed, but they water and feed once to twice a week.
Uh-huh.
I personally like to feed far more aggressively because I'm looking to get my switch over quicker. I want to get into bloom faster, and then I want to be aggressively feeding throughout bloom.
Sure.
So I follow the less is more, less volume more often. So instead of giving them a gallon to run off 10% off the bottom, I give them a quart, which means in a day or two I'm going to have to feed them another quart. The theory behind that is if you're watering it to saturation, the roots kind of tend to want to get a little lazy in the earlier stages because they're always completely surrounded and saturated with water. So the roots don't ever really have to go find anything. They don't have to go find nutrition. They're just anchored in and absorbing. Where if you let them kind of run from wet to dry or moist to dry, what happens is the roots start digging and looking for more water and more nutrition when they start to dry out to save themselves. And then you come in and rescue with a little bit more moisture every other day. Well, in a very short period of time, you can develop a much larger root mass, so then you can feed them way more aggressively in the flower stage. So it really boils down to, as a new grower, I would follow the water to runoff. Once they're established, water to runoff, so you're never having like nutrient buildup, salt buildup, or some type of imbalance occurring because you're always pushing it down when you water to runoff.
So the runoff is good in the pushing stuff out of their situation. So it's not just about too much water or not enough water. That's an issue with it.
Well, let's go back to the 500, 5,000 person. Is the same concept. Is if you just push a little bit, well, that compounds this like concentrate at the bottom. Then you do a heavy flush, that all comes out, and you see 5,000 parts per million. If that 5,000 was up in that top layer of the plant, that plant's dead. I mean, plants don't like 5,000 parts per million in the root zone hovering. So by pushing it down with those less volume feeds, and then every time you do a Herculean flush, you get a 25% runoff, all that should come out the bottom and you're kind of resetting that root zone. As a newer grower, I think a lot of newer growers, they end up watering so much because they love their plants so much that they drown them. And when they're drowning, they don't want to be aggressively growing, so they end up with smaller, plants that look heavy and they're like, oh, they look droopy. And it's like, often the droop isn't just underwatered, it's overwatered, and they're like, oh, man. And so they get just heavy. So
is that what you say probably the two main killers is overwatering and underwatering?
Well, I mean, if you go to a tropical plant store, they'll say the number one killer of all houseplants is you, the human, because you love them so much you overwater them. And so it's really a matter of, one of my customers goes by Don Juan. Back and forth, challenge on plant health at the beginning, and then it comes down to I was loving my plants too much and I overwatered them. So as you learn your watering practices, I mean, that's just as magical of a tool as Herculean flushes. If you can dial in watering, the rest of it just becomes very easy to maintain. But there's a million ways to do this, and every one of your friends will give you a different option. You really kind of have to look at it. Don't overwater. Don't force a watering if they don't need the watering. And I like less is more with once a week a good watering just to clear it all out. But overwatering makes lazy plants at the beginning.
So why does my ficus get watered once a month and my peppers get watered every day, hopefully?
Is your peppers outdoors or are they right next to the ficus?
My peppers is in my tent.
So your peppers in the tent and the ficus is in the room. The one has artificial lighting. Peppers need way more lights, way more energy, and they're producing fruit. A ficus says, if you move me from this side of the room to that, I'm going to drop half my foliage and then I'm going to die.
Okay. Second question. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and then the ficus is a tropical plant. So as long as you have humidity in the room, they can breathe. I mean, an orchid doesn't get watered. They absorb moisture out of the air. Most tropical plants are literally taking rainforest moisture and they're absorbing it through humidity.
That's why the soil sucks in the rainforest. That's why they burn everything down and grow one crop there, because the nutrients aren't in the soil. It's
Burger King said, "Hey, chop everything down and grow one fucking thing there." They don't do that. The rainforest soil is probably the most biodiverse soil on the planet. They chop all that shit down because no matter what they grow there, will grow phenomenally. So let's get rid of oxygen so we can grow corn. Stupidest thing ever. We should just fence off that country and that continent and say, if you're an American, get the hell out of here and go back to Montana and till that crap in and grow your corn, you morons.
So, I got one actual question. That wasn't a good question. This, I think, may be a good question. So, obviously, I don't want my water swampy or bone dry. But do I want it to have variation where it's wetter and drier, or do I want to keep like a general level of moisture to my soil?
I mean, you definitely want to keep a moisture content. You don't want to drop below it too often because then you create hydrophobic pockets. So I like the moist to dry concept rather than the wet to moist. Because wet creates root rot, fungal issues, anaerobic bacteria, anaerobic fungi. The things that will actually create problems in the root zone love lack of oxygen and they love, muddy water or muddy soils. So I tend to lean and coach people into the damp, damp to dry versus wet to damp. Because if it's wet to damp, they never get a chance to air out. You have fungus gnats if you're always wet. You have root aphids show up and tend to really thrive when you're always wet. I mean, a lot of problems show up to always wet.
So it seems like you'd have this thing of like in your mind that the perfect scenario would be some kind of drip irrigation where it just went bloop, bloop.
Well, yeah, there's that Blue Mat stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue Mat there's this company, Blue Mat, I don't know, it's probably French or something. American fries.
That guy.
Freedom fries! But the Blue Mat system is like this little ceramic carrot, and it has a nozzle that you let the tube go further out or in, and you set your moisture preference, and it literally is reading the hyperbaric pressure of the soil according to how much water is being released by the dripper. And the further you make the dripper go out, the wetter the soil is, and the closer it is, the more moist it is. So you can literally dial in your perfect plant's moisture content in the zone, and it'll maintain that the whole way through.
Is that a good scenario other than the fact that you couldn't feed?
It's a great scenario if you're doing no feedings, no bottles, because then now if you come in behind it, you water it once a week with nectar, 5 gallons of nectar, now you're at full saturation, that thing starts to dry out and may not even start reactivate. It might lose its siphon because it's pulling from a reservoir. I do know guys that set those up for vacations and stuff.
Sure.
Because if you have a good, healthy one-shot built up in your soil and you want to leave for 10 days, these will keep you at 25% perfect moisture all the way your whole vacation if you have a big enough reservoir.
Okay.
But yeah, keeping your soil at a perfect moisture content from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week while feeding bottles, it's impossible. I mean, you want to keep this range, but there's no way to keep 25%.
Okay. I think so. Well,
We'll see.
We'll see. In the comments below. Yeah, okay. Buds McKenzie. Hey guys, I appreciate you bringing up my question about transitioning to LED. I think it was a great discussion. Another product to hit the lighting market as well is the UV Supplemental Lighting Bar. Very fascinating. The industry is changing, and aside from lighting, powdered nutrients is another product I see, and I'm curious, is that a root nectar for the gods has taken interest in? Will we see a powdered nectar line in the future? So a couple of things here. The UV thing. Have you been to the dentist lately?
Unfortunately, yes.
They use UV to. Have you seen them do that? They stick the UV in your mouth to make the glue or something activate. I don't know what it is.
Oh, they do that for models now.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No.
Like model glue?
Oh my. Yes. You know what else I saw?
I mean, it's like instant.
I saw.
Put the shit together and go tip, sealed.
I saw a thing where they took a yellow. It was an old Millennium Falcon that was yellowed, and they turned it back to white again. I don't know what the light was. How they
now that shit's in your mouth, and they're going. It's safe. We're just learning about how safe.
Well, and no sunglasses or anything, you know. So you got.
Yeah, can't wait for the uvula cancer to kick in from that one. Don't worry.
That radiation's using your uvula like a speed bag.
He doesn't even know about this stuff yet, but so we're going to keep using it because it seems safe.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like radiation. You know, I mean, we have radiation in our body, but not very much. And they were like, you know, those people that were using the radium dials on the watches that are licking their brush and, you know, get head cancer. There's a level. There's a level. And it seems like that level of UV may not be good that they're shooting us with.
Especially when they're internal, like, they're this far away from your brain. Like, do you feel anything? Well, this slight burning on my pineal gland. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I don't know how to. Yeah, now, I tend to, he doesn't like me because I don't allow him to use fluoride.
Oh. Yeah, no, he doesn't. Well, no doctor likes you questioning what they're saying or doing.
Yeah, well, but he also knows that, you know, I was raised in a family of oral surgery and maxillofacial, so we know exactly what they want to do. And he's like, so what would you use? I mean, not that. He goes, okay, I'll give you more calcium phosphate toothpaste then. There you go, Doc.
Okay.
That's my language. Calcium phosphate, I'm all about it. You want to put fluoride in my head because you want my teeth to straight? Shut up. Come on. Anyway.
So UV Supplemental Lighting Bar.
We're seeing them. I mean, I've been at Pigs now. He's been using them, the far greens and far reds and then the UVs. And, I mean, I'll tell you, if you want to see something impressive, he's running Next Light LEDs, and he's got the green spectrum in there, he's got a UV bar in there, and he's got the far rights, or reds, on the white bar. I'll tell you, when you do a foliar feed with Photosynthesis Plus, now I understand what Photosynthesis Plus is for. Foliar feeding with LEDs with a green spectrum bar. Holy crap.
So the UV is not about damaging the plant so that it gets stronger. It is actually about light spectrum of giving it more light.
Yeah,
a more natural light that gives it more.
LEDs are going to start really making a huge difference. I'm following tightly with these, well, there's a gentleman out in Chicago who's just, I mean, he's an amazing dude named Kevin. He's a big nectar head, but he works with Mosca Seeds, Windy City Autos. So they're working on all these auto seed programs, feeding schedules. You can find them on Instagram. They do an event every single weekend at some grow shop between, like River Market Hydro to, oh my gosh, let me see. Indoor Earthworm, Simple Soil. He just got done doing one at, he just doesn't. I'm too busy. He does it more than I would ever do them. But he's working with these Next Light folks. We've gotten a few of our customers out here on the West Coast, and I've naysayed those most LEDs for quite some time. I think they're kind of overpriced, and they weren't really delivering on their promise. Mm-hmm. And now I'm really starting to change my mind on that concept. So keep your eyes and peeled on these. I think they're going to be something that they're going to make a new level of a new bar to hit, if you will.
Do you think that LEDs might make Autoflowers more popular? Like, because you're just pushing it with like the whole way. Shouldn't be a factor, or who knows?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just going to make all indoor plant. Now, the one thing that scares me about LEDs, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there right now. Maybe they can help me out with this, but, LEDs are known for penetration. So if you're in a canopy and you got 3 feet of canopy depth and it's whatever, you can measure light on those bottom leaves that's penetrating through the canopy to that. What's it doing to your dermal layer? I mean, your back's there, what's it doing to your brainstem? Or, I mean, how deep does that, I won't even let them shoot that laser into my forehead to to test my temperature when I go to the dentist. I'm like, hit my arm, and they're like, well, it's gonna hit your head. I'm like, no, same blood, moron. Just hit it in my hand. Stop hitting me in the brain. I'm not smart enough for this. This is stupid that you're making me grow. So now what's happening in a grow room when you're in there and you got 60 of these LEDs in there? Is that not penetrating through? I mean, they have special glasses for them. What, do I need special arm sleeves for it? I'm just curious. I need to,
I know.
Well, are we all going to walk around with like arm cancer because we've been growing under LEDs for 6 years? I'm not saying this is the case. I want to know what the next level is. Like, what's our next? Hey, did you or one of your loved ones take that? Well, you may be entitled. So I want to know what the penetration is on skin. If I can see it penetrate through like this much white paper, I want to know what it does to you. But what I'm seeing is phenomenal in the plant. So it's like efficiency times 10. And if you have all the spectrums that these guys are designing and putting on these bars and like what Nextlight's done, it's phenomenal. But I want to know what it does to your skin.
I have two comments about that. One is the greatest joke I've ever told in my life. I'm about to tell you. I don't know if it'll be funny here. It was funny in context. The missus and I are in Las Vegas, and we're going to...
Wait a second. The fact that you're going to tell the funniest joke you ever told and your missus is involved, she may have been humoring you.
No, it was objectively hilarious.
Okay.
So we're going to the room to get, I can't remember what, and leaving again. As we're walking through, the TV had been left on. I think the kids may have been there or something. And the TV is like, did you go to X clinic? You may have contracted hepatitis or AIDS, blah, 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 blah. And I go, hepatitis.
Come on! Don't want the AIDS!
Anyway, the second thing I wanted to say is that I am profoundly hypochondriacal, if that's a word.
Wow, you're a hypochondriac like there's no tomorrow. I mean, I can tell you and WebMD, it should be blocked on your computer.
But all the things you're worried about, none of those bother me at all.
Not yet.
I know. That's the funny thing, is we all have our thresholds.
I will never leave his house again. I can't go to Fred Meyer. They've got C5 lighting and that attaches the retina from your eyeball.
Well, a lot of this stuff, like back in the day, that was terrible for people, and occupational hazards and stuff that they didn't think was a big deal, and then suddenly people are like suffering years later. This stuff is probably going to be that stuff too, I would think.
Yeah. But you know what? You live, you die. Get over it. You get to make all your own choices in life. Nobody's holding a gun to your head to say you need to do this way.
Well, sometimes. Sometimes people are holding a gun to your head.
Well, they better bring a big gun.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Oh, and then the powder thing?
Yeah, I forgot about that one. What do you think about that?
That's called Down to Earth Whitney Farm. I mean, I guess, what's the powdered thing? So just organics?
What's his name? That fella down in Northern California. Your buddy. The Earthshine guy.
Yeah, that's just dry goods.
That's his thing, and it's great. It's just not your thing. It's kind of what I feel like.
I mean, One Shot's powdered nutrients that we pelleted with limes or with molasses. But now, there's Down to Earth. There's Dr. Earth. There's Green Grow. There's all the guys that do the dry goods and the dry amendments. And that's great. They do well. We want fast. We're trying to get guys to push the recipe in different levels so they get different enhancements, different terpenes. There's no new to powdered fertilizers.
Yeah.
I did that 27 years ago when I worked for Down to Earth. That's what we sold, was powdered fertilizers that are all organic, and it's great. You know why I don't do that? Because Down to Earth does that.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new under the sun.
Well, as far as I was going to ask something, as far as the fast acting, it's not just that it starts fast, it also stops fast. So that you're not
can move it.
You're not in for the long haul with it.
Yeah, and even though you grind down, so the difference, when I take bone meal and I grind it down into a 400 mesh, and that's what's in the Chimera, it's still more available when I digest it down into a liquid of no solid at all.
Yeah.
But when it's even ground down to 400, it still takes about 300 pieces of little bacteria to eat that little tiny microscopic fruit, because bacteria are tiny, And all these powders, it speeds up. Like if you micronize all organic powders, that's great. The downfall is the actual piece becomes not soluble, but becomes, you can water it right out of your medium with too many heavy waterings because it's just walking through the medium. Like what Green Grow does, he makes a great meal, microbial, bacterial crossover blend, so everything's ready to go when you put it in the soil. I'm not going to recreate something Green Grow's done because it's already done. Down to Earth kind of corners the market, in my opinion. They are the organic company, like the organic meal company. So what we do, none of those guys do, and we make bone meal available for the day you water it versus next year when you hope it becomes available. So we're not, we've got all the access. We have all the meals that everybody else does that we digest here for our products. We could easily make a dry line. We don't see, with the way the industry is compressing right now, creating a whole nother dry line in a world of 1,000 dry lines. It's just diluting out what we do. And what we do is focus on what we do awesome. And what we do awesome is digest shit.
If you took 10 seconds working on that stuff, and it would be half your day. You'd be not working on this.
I've worked with Jack Bates at Down to Earth. I mean, I know exactly every single recipe that Down to Earth puts out in their veg and flour and all their great products. I won't make that because I know who makes it. I know the recipes on how to make it, and I don't want to rip them off because it's their products.
Well, it's done too. I mean, you don't need, that problem doesn't need solving.
It really doesn't. I mean, and that's why, you don't see me promoting our limestone product because Down to Earth has it in a box across the entire country, and anybody can go out and grab it right now and fix their problems. And I like them. So, hey, Down to Earth, thanks for letting me work for you for 7 years and get me in the industry and becoming, very organic-minded. Now I'm going to rob you. Just crap. I mean, that's the problem with our industries. Everybody grows up with the next guy, and then as soon as they turn their backs, like, thanks for everything. Now I'm going to rob you. Yeah, no, Down to Earth, I recommend them on soap. If you want to do all meals and control your meals, Down to Earth. If you want somebody to put up a blend with bacteria and the fungus and all this stuff, you want to go Green Grow. If you want liquids and time-released organics, you want Nectar. So
well, I think even if you went and copied what Green Grow or what Down to Earth is doing, you would be just a copy of what they are doing, and so you would fall into being a brand as opposed to building something for people, because that's the only way you could differentiate. If you can't do your own thing, you can't differentiate it in the real world, and so you end up, being,
I hear ya.
The logo boys. Okay, there you go. Cameron Mosey. Super informative. Thanks for these vids. Love One Shot. I run it with liquid newts as well, but I do run into some lockout at times. I'm wondering if I should lessen the amount of One Shot I am in the soil with, or pull back on the newts. So if we can back up a little bit, when you don't really consider One Shot to be in that dry nutrient category. It's kind of it's just that.
I mean, it is. It's like it is rosin flour food from Down to Earth. It is, and it's not. I mean, totally different recipe. But it's that concept where it's an all-in-one dry amendment organic. So, but the only difference is we take the powders that we were talking about in the last one, finely ground, and then pelletize it so it's constantly releasing slowly.
So you were able to make a differentiation because of your unique manufacturing of your other things, to where you could make a product that made sense, that you could make something better, different than what everyone else was doing, but still a dry amendment.
Mix all these dry things together in a cement mixer and then just put that powder in a box. So we have a box of powdered stuff that is there. We take it all so it's all layered nice and, as it's being built, it's being layered. So it's kind of, consciously layered. So it's, the first stuff's going to be the nitrogen release, then the calcium release, then the phosphorus release. So
along with microbial milkshakes.
Yeah, exactly. But it should be relatively slow. So if you're having issues, it depends on how much you're applying of the One Shot and how much food you really want to do. I think if you front load the One Shot pretty decent loads, then you can reduce the bottles through the veg cycle and rely on the One Shot as a food source. And then as you start closing in on flowering and the One Shot starts to deplete, then you start increasing your bottle input, and you kind of create that balance of mid-flower, you might be all bottles, and the One Shot could be almost depleted for your application rate. And so it really boils down to your budget, your wallet, and how much work you want to do. I mean, a lot of guys that front load a lot of one shot and top dress in flower, they don't want to do a lot of bottle feeding, so they're only watering maybe once a week with the bottles. But then guys that want just the one shot as a backup, they back off on the one shot and feed aggressively all the way through with the bottles, and then if they skip a beat, the one shot's there to kind of back them up on the food.
Okay, so is there any scenario of bottle feeding where adding one shot at any time would make a lockout issue? The interaction between the two.
Lockout issues are really, that's a loaded one because often it's a pH lockout, not a nutrient lockout. So it's really, and then the hard part is now if you got a bunch of one shot in your soil, your slurry might be a little staggered because it's reading weird stuff. So, it's pretty hard to create that lockout. You'd see more of a burn than you would see a lockout when you add all of it together.
So that's really not an issue you need to worry about. You're worried about your philosophy of how you're going to do it, not about that one is going to interact negatively with the other.
Yeah. Oh, no. They're designed. I mean, everything in one shot is in a bottle of nectar somewhere that we put in. So if you're using Roman, you're using liquid one shot across the board.
So if I top dress some one shot, and then the next day is my flush day, and I flush, am I flushing my one shot out the bottom of the?
No, not unless you just like ran water for 12 straight hours and diluted it down. But really, as the water passes, it's releasing the top little layers of that. The microbes are breaking it down and making it available, and it won't just flush it out. Now that's the other problem with the powders is you start to flush it out. You can flush out a lot of the powders, and then you have to re-amend all those powders, and then you hope you re-amend correctly.
You don't know.
It's a hard one. So.
Okay. Yeah? No?
Sure. I think basically with that question would be, if you want to do more bottle feeding, apply like 1 tablespoon per gallon of one shot as a backup food source. If you want to use one shot as your primary veg food with fewer bottles, then do 2 tablespoons per gallon of one shot as your primary food source through veg, and then top dress again in bloom, so you're only feeding once a week with your bottles. But it really comes down to how hard you want to push the plants. The only thing I don't like about one shot is that I'm not pushing my plants when I'm doing one shot only.
They're taking what they want.
4 shot are ramping up their feeds and going, man, when I get into mid bloom with 4 shot, I can literally put an IV in there and they're just eating it all. So
if you were going to one shot at any time, you would do it more so in veg and less so in flower?
Yeah, or maybe like I'd front load it in veg, and then right before I go into flower, I'd add a little bit more so I had that backup during the bloom cycle so I didn't miss any beats.
And when you talk about pushing, you're not just talking about pushing yield, you're talking about pushing for different things by putting in more nutrients that affect how the plant grows.
Yeah. If I'm trying to get more oil, I'll do this. If I'm doing terpenes, I do that. Or if I'm going for yield, I'll push this or that.
Okay. From Didelio. I think that's what it is. I'm thinking of incorporating Mammoth P into my feeding regimen. All right. I'm already using Megamorpheus. Would using both be overkill? Would using both but reducing the amounts used by half be okay? That way I would still get plenty of phosphorus, but from a more diverse source. Are those roughly comparable? Would you compare Megamorpheus to Mammoth P?
I think our label sucks.
So Mammoth is a microbial product meant to enhance phosphorus uptake in theory, correct?
Yeah.
Whereas you would say that the Megamorpheus is phosphorus?
Phosphorus. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you can totally use them in conjunction. Look at it this way. Mammoth P would be the same thing as using Megaphos from Blacksmith or using parts of Photosynthesis Plus. They've got the very similar P-fixing microbe, but the Mammoth P is a P-fixing microbe. It doesn't have a phosphate level to it. There's no 0, 12, 0. So No, the Mammoth B you'd use to make the Megamorpheus more available, or the bone meal in the soil more available, or rock phosphate more available. It's finding the phosphorus built in your medium and making that available for your plants that otherwise would not be available. Megamorpheus is digested phosphorus bat poop, seabird poop.
So in theory, it
is old. Huh?
I kind of interrupted. In theory, it is what Mammoth P is trying to make.
What is?
The Megamorpheus is the available phosphorus.
Mammoth P, and we're gonna take the brand out of it.
Yeah.
Phosphorus fixing microbes, they're just like azose and nitrogen fixing. They're trying to assimilate the environmental conditions and creating or extracting their element out of that environment and offer that to the plant. And so the Mammoth Ps and the Megaphoses of the world, it's just one little bacteria down there that's consuming and pooping out phosphates so that the plant can access them without ramming phosphates down their throat. Because a lot of phosphates in our industry are quite dangerous to the watershed and the water systems around us, where Mammoth P and Megaphos, their microbial phosphate fixers, are bringing in natural forms of phosphorus without damaging or potentially polluting our water systems with phosphates.
So, am I correct that all these companies, they looked at a billion microbes and tried to find the ones that do the thing they wanted it to do, and took those, synthesized those somehow, or replicated those somehow, put those into a bottle, and then so that instead of pouring glug, 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 glug of something, a phosphate on there, it's taking what is there and making it available to the plant.
Yeah, just making what you're using more efficient with those microbes. So if you have good compost, as Jack Bates from Down to Earth once said, if everybody knew how to compost, all fertilizer companies would go out of business. Because you literally, with good, knowledgeable, and good composting practices, you can build everything you need into a really healthy compost just from turning and what you add and green to black or brown. And, there's a way to never use another bottle or fertilizer again, and it's composting, but it's learning how to do it absolutely correct. Now, bring a compost into your indoor garden, and you got a whole new nightmare of bugs and things that grow in compost. But for outdoor, those fixers are the ones that make all of that available. So, we've been really intrigued. We've never really wanted to do a microbial, but we've been, starting to work with Green Grow to do a collaboration on some stuff, because so many of our customers kind of cross over, but yet we're so diverse and we are so different in a sense. We have different clients that have the same mindset. Yeah. And we do, a lot of my customers use his Earthshine, and a lot of his customers use my bone meal. We're working right now to create a phosphixing microbial soluble with our porcine and his phosphorus microbes that he grows, that they colonize, and they're blending those together into a nectar form of phosphixers. And then we also are going to be working with an azose that he's generating and to house it in some of our materials. So we're going to have 2 different microbials coming out within the next 8 to 10 months, which will be fun because it's going to be a collaboration between Mark and I that's going to, it's going to really offer us something that's actually designed for nectar products.
Kind of like the One Shot is a dry amendment that works with your philosophy. This is a microbe that works with what you're doing that's kind of customized to your philosophy. Is that what you're getting at?
Very much so.
Yeah.
And, both Mark and I are on the same tip when it comes to the microbials. Is, a lot of companies out there, like, you have to apply it once every week or every 10 days. And, I can attest. So I buy I buy Green Grow's mycorrhiza because they colonize them in greenhouses in Northern California, and they're all done organically, and I really enjoy, again, we've done a lot of mycorrhiza tests, and when we get done with his materials, every time we go and have it labbed, the spore count is like 10 to 100 times more than what we put in. And so what it tells us is not that he's like giving us a hell of a deal and giving us 10 times the value on a product, but when it gets into our product line, it's actually multiplying and colonizing at a level that even the Department of Ag of California won't let us make the claims with lab results from independent labs saying, here's how many spores there are in the soil of his mycorrhiza. They won't even let us put that on there because it would take 42 pounds per bag to get us to that level. You know, it's arbitrary.
So it's kind of an SLF 100 thing where it's different every time you look at it.
Yeah, so you claim the minuscule amount to claim it's there, but I can tell you, the nice thing about the things we've seen with Mark's products or Green Grow's products, Mark owns the damn company, so I'm just going to say Mark.
Sure.
Mark Green Grow Mark. If we use this phosphixing one, and in conversation, use it once or twice throughout the entire cycle, you're not killing them with the nutrition, so there's no worry about having to reapply. To me, the reapplication of microbes all the way through means you've been killing them all the way through, and you need to apply, or you need to apply because the company needs to go on a ski trip and they need more money, so keep applying every other day because your microbes are dying as soon as they hit the root zone. And so I don't know, from what I understand, if you're not tilling, you're not killing. If you're not acidifying your soil, you're not killing the microbes. So why do I have to keep compiling my microbes on top of themselves if I'm not killing them?
That's a damn good question.
I know, that's what I want to know. It's just don't hurt your microbes and then you don't have to replace your microbes. I mean, it's kind of like your wife. You know? You don't beat your wife. You don't have to go get a new wife. You just keep the same
cheaper to keep her. Okay. That's all the questions we have.
Well then, hey, this weekend is Brew and Grow.
What's that?
In Roselle, Illinois.
Okay.
So Chicago, or Illinois has gone like, I don't know. I think there's no rails left. I think the freight train became a car and it's just running around rampantly killing everybody because everybody in Chicago now is growing. There's an event every weekend in Illinois for the next 2 months that will literally teach you everything you need to know about growing. And the best part is, these guys are doing it for free. And so this week is Roselle. It's that Kevin's amazing. He's doing it with Moscow seeds. Then he's doing that, just doing a bunch of shows. I would check him out.
Okay.
He's Botanic Assassin on Instagram. He is incredibly informative and educational. The guy leads with passion in his heart. I've never seen anybody do what he does for nothing. I mean, he literally doesn't, I don't know how he makes his living. I don't pay him a dime. And the guy, I will pay him a dime eventually. It's insane what he's been able to do.
You don't care. Doesn't care about the money. That's rare.
No.
But and he's probably way happier than a bunch of billionaires. Yeah.
Huh?
He's probably a lot happier than most billionaires.
He truly is. He's one of those beings that he'd rather have a really strong community behind him than driving a Lamborghini over to the next store because the Lamborghini's not going to get him anything but the hassle. So, you know, I definitely wanted to shout out him and what he's doing. You know, I'd say the next thing is just keep your eyes on supply chains. It's been a really crazy year already. Everyone's freaking out because there's all sorts of stuff's happening as far as no cocoa this, no peat moss that. The raw materials are just going through the roof. Watch your supply chains this year, and if I can give any advice, buy it early because, you know, budget your end of season by June because in August, September, there's a good chance there's a lot of companies that aren't going to be able to supply you final flush stuff. Okay. We're good. We bought enough bone meal for the entire season as of last November. In December, we got all of our packaging finally secured and done, so we have our whole season ready to go. The nice thing there is that we're not going to increase our prices according to what the resin prices of plastics doing, according to the fuel. I mean, the only thing that's going to screw us is fuel.
Nothing you can do about that. You got to buy it at the moment you need it.
Oh, it's getting... The problem with most people right now, cocoa fiber is a huge one, and it's because there's no shipping containers in there. There's no shipping containers.
No.
So
well, they're all sitting out, and they're all just sitting a couple miles offshore, right? And they're just waiting to come in.
That's the theory, but I think now some countries are just holding them in hostage and saying, make a bid. I mean, I've actually had guys say, I can ship your container out. How much freight are you willing to pay?
Well,
that's
you know
comment you want to hear from your broker.
The hat guy we worked with that gets the stuff from China. I spoke with him a couple weeks ago. He said he's air freighting almost everything. Almost everything he does, it's $1 a hat more, and they ship it through the air because he cannot get it on a container.
Oh no, they're all parked in the Red Sea somewhere. So yeah, that part is not fun. But like I said, I made a post. I got on Instagram for the first time since 2019. Made a post.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't been on the gram in a while either.
Huh?
I haven't been on the gram in a while either. I've been letting us down.
Back off of the social media altogether. It's depressing. So,
yeah,
we got fired by Hawthorne because we're not one of their brands, and we won't be acquired by anybody, and we won't sell out to anyone. So we're no longer part of the Hawthorne catalog. So you can no longer buy our products through Hawthorne. And the best part about that is they fired me by sending an email to my shipping manager.
You know, I had a job once and they fired me and I said, oh, this is such a relief.
All right, well, believe me, it was a relief in a sense.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, my response is I sent an email back to the receiving department in Detroit for Hawthorne and said, hey, no problem, thanks for the heads up. And then I got a response, what's that about? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm just as professional as your professionals there. I'm going to let the receiver know that I'm okay with the Hawthorne firing us. By telling my shipping manager that we're fired. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, the nice thing there is it's amazing the response that we got from our customer base. It's definitely, the industry has divided. We are seeing, you know, just like the rest of the world, it's, you know, there's the Hatfields and McCoys, my friend.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, we don't want to be the biggest company out there. We've already had 2 offers to be purchased. I mean, since this has happened, it's been 1 week today. We've been acquired. I mean, people have asked to buy us out now 2 times in a week. And what my big answer is, this isn't, we do this because we're this family and we're this really tightly knit group of humans.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I don't have a turnover rate. My employees, they average 8 to 10 years. We've been open for 12. I mean, figure that out. We have a really, I do what I do for these people, and these people do what they do for me. And at the end of the day, you know, we all hang our hat on the same bar, and none of us are above or beyond any of them. And I told both people that asked me if we'd ever sell, I told them flat out, I go, if you ever wanted to buy me, it'd be $100 million. Just, you know, stupid. And I would not work a day for you. You cannot buy me to be.
I will hand you the keys and I will walk away.
It is. Good luck. Your customers are gonna leave you like that. Because the first time you go online and you're a jerk, or you are condescending, or you decide to tell somebody that they're too small of a grower for your time. You know how many people come to our line because they've reached out to a bigger company and the owner or their customer service agent just flat out says, well, how many lights do you run? Oh, I'm just in the tent and I got a 400. Oh, well, we deal with multi-million-dollar blah, blah, blah. It's like, how do you know that guy with a freaking tent and a 400 light isn't, or a 400 watt light isn't going to have a 100,000 square foot grow in 2 years? And you know how many growers that have 200 lights right now that are running these big commercial things started with my stuff and are running my stuff today? Because I never ever, I don't care how big you are. You give me money. You pay my rent.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in a house and I eat dinner every single night because you give it to me. So I still answer the 1 light guy. I still answer the 50 light guy. They're all just as important because we're all gaining the same knowledge. I don't think that would carry over if I sold this company.
No.
I think it would go away.
Well, one thing is that one little person is part of that whole thing. It's not one person. It's, you know, it's not 100 people. It's a thing. And the thing is that you wouldn't work there one day, and most of the people that work with you wouldn't work there 2 days. So, and when everyone walks out, it's just a building.
No, and that's it. Is I look at the, Facebook groups, and I look at that community that's been built there, and all those people rely on what we do and why we do it. And money just really can be a bad thing if you get to that point where you are so hungry for that dollar that all these people, like when I had my face smashed and all those people literally were just like handing it over and raising money and all the prayers and everything that came to me from that, I could never just drop out because, I'm going to go live on an island. Now, I mean, if the world gets any shittier, the island might sound better and better and better, but I don't think the purchasing of the business is going to become more lucrative.
No. Well, being wealthy is not worrying about your power bill. It's not buying the next jet up in the line. That's the kind of thing just makes you feel worse, not better.
Well, that's it. I think I've been around money in my life, and anybody that I've been around that had a lot of money, they never were happy, and they thought that they could buy their happiness. And at the end of the day, if I'm sitting there crying my eyes out because my 10-year employee's moving to Baker's Poopville, that's ridiculous. I shouldn't have that emotion about a guy who picks my orders for me and ships them out. But I do, because he's invested in me, so therefore I'm fully invested in him and his whole family. It's he's a picker. I gave him a severance. I mean, you gave it. He was such a labor, and I'm like, no, he was my brother. That guy picked my shit, and he was on it. He was never late. He was all. It's a hard one. Well, I put too much damn emotion into what I do, and it sucks because I can never be a greedy jerk, or it's not about the money. It really isn't. We haven't raised our prices in 14 years. Do you think my margin's getting bigger? No. It's like doing this. But we want our customers to know that, we're in the worst time we've ever been in. We're not going to raise our price on you right now because then you're screwed. Yeah.
Well, I think, paying $25 million for Paul Newman's watch is not going to make you happy. But going into work and waving at everybody and they wave back, hey, how you doing? That's being happy.
Well, and then they don't stab you when you turn your back, because that makes me happy. You know what, when I go home at night, I don't sit there going, because nobody's following me home to hit me in the head when I get out of my car, because I didn't screw anybody over today. So it's, and the last thing I really want to say or do is our homeboy, Rob. Yeah. It's a tough one, man. I mean, I talked to him the other day. He's fighting a huge fight down there. His cancer's kind of spreading. It's kind of like advancing a little bit. He's doing the chemo. And he's staying really positive for what he's doing. But the man's kind of hitting the wall on finances. I mean, insurance only covers so much before they just completely bleed you dry with cancer. Yeah, they're gonna bankrupt you and then some. Eventually. Yeah. So right now we're just trying to figure out a campaign to get together. We're doing a bunch of Carl Gorka auctions and stuff for just helping with cash flow and getting fed and keeping the natural foods flowing to him. But the big thing that man needs, because his big fight right now is he just wants to go all natural. He's taking all the crap out of his diet, but he needs FICO. I mean, he needs FICO. That man, right now, California prices, California quality, and the dispensaries he's getting it from, it's going to bleed him dry. So, email us or, go on to Facebook. I think it's Cultivate Kindness is the auction. That's Carl Gorka's page. Reach out to Carl, just let him know, hey, I got an excess jar of FICO, I'd be happy to donate, or, let me know what your pricing is. I mean, I would happily sponsor a Rob Grow to get him, if he's willing to go gung-ho on this medicine, I want to help that. Sure. He's a genuine homie. So, I want to, anything I can do for him, and if you're out there listening, please just, if you got extra FICO laying around, you got a jar of stuff from last year, you just give it to the man, or let me know what you want for it. But whatever it's going to take, I just want to get this guy what he needs to get going. I remember when his mom was dying of cancer in Michigan. That's where I met Rob. He started talking to me while he just went and camped there with her. I mean, he did what he had to. I could go live with her for 2 years while she died of cancer, and he gave it all to her. I mean, he gave up his life for his mother, and the guy, his heart is that big. He is exceptional. Like, the first second you see him, that he is, as a person, just decent. Yeah, he slept at your house a few times. No, great guy. So, I pray for him often and a lot, and I want anyone out there that has extra, just think of him. If you need an address to send it to him, just reach out to me. I'll hook you up, but let's get together and make Rob. I mean, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about any of that. Let's just figure out how to get him medicine, because he doesn't want to take the pills. He doesn't want to take all the crap they're encouraging him to take. He wants to get better. So, that's my last little bit on Rob. And other than that, let's keep these going. Customers seem to like it. It's good. Oh, and that Cole, man. Jeez. He is sharp. He is sharp. The artist, Cole, the artist doing the learned what that, and that woman you brought us to do the vector on the soil bags, $50. I mean, I sent her a bunch of free.
Did she only charge? I talked to her about doing it, and she said the minimum's 50, and we did the one, and we did the next one. I said, now listen to me. Do not charge just the 50 minimum. Charge 50 minimum for both. And she's like, I don't know about that. I said, just charge 100, okay? She didn't do it.
I don't know.
That's funny.
It was insanely cheap. So I sent her a bunch of free one-shot and some Gaia and a bunch of instructions on how to use it. So I've made a good customer there. But then I get a message from Cole, and he's like, hey, I felt bad about not getting that right in the vector, so I spent the last 4 days and I've learned all that now. So now I've got it all dialed. I'm like, man, that kid, that guy,
gamer.
So now he's getting ready to launch his own, where he's at, they're allowing caregiver status so he can grow for multiple people.
Uh-huh.
And he's got the skills and he's got the connections. So, you might want to watch this guy's channel, because when he gets ready to start growing for people, he's going to grow some crazy good medicine. And I'm hoping he opens up a little retail store because his passion's there. I told him I got his back 100%. But his art and his ability to,
get it done.
Yeah, you're fired, Bob. I'm going to...
I will cancel my Photoshop subscription today.
Yeah, I would. It certainly won't be next month. But I'm pretty impressed with the youthful brain. Is a pretty miraculous thing.
I'm hopeful for Gen Z. I'm
not.
The woman that did the thing, they got their shit together. I'm impressed.
Some of them. Man, I own a retail store. I challenge that statement. You sit on our little balcony and listen to what people say all day, and then you change your mind.
Yeah, but you take you and Mark and Rob and a few others in the industry of your generation, and it gets pretty shallow in the gene pool right thereafter. So I think every generation's been a little...
So... I can find guys my age that still want to work. Mm-hmm. I cannot find a human being to work in our building right now. Every single trucker that comes through here says their companies are hiring 5 to 10 people in their companies.
Oh, yeah.
My retail store is hiring 3 people, trying to.
Well,
I don't know a single place in this house that isn't looking for someone to work. Mm-hmm. Have you been under Washington Jefferson Street Bridge lately?
It's not great under there. The wife works near there. But, I think...
That's her front yard, and tell me. Well, so, if everybody's looking to hire somebody, and that exists? Come on, Eugene.
Well, I think there's 2 things. There's a bunch of people that don't want to work, and a bunch of people that have realized that the power structure between employer and employee is slightly tilted a little bit, and they could be a little more choosy.
Ask every one of my employees if that is true.
Well, I think people just don't know about you.
Oh, no, believe me, I've interviewed 5 people this week, and every single one's like, first, next time you go down an interview, wash your fucking shirt. That's a good start. And then, 2, maybe put on one that doesn't have a hole right here where I can see your nipple hair, you moron. I don't care who you are. You just came from your couch. You're probably just fulfilling your unemployment card saying, I got an interview and I don't want it, so I put on my shirt just to tell the guy I want $42 an hour and I only work on Tuesdays. That's stupid. That's where we're at. We've had 4 interviews this week and not one guy even came in bathed.
Well, I've changed my mind. I want to switch sides in this argument.
Too late. You're one of them.
One of them.
One of them.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. I think that was
and
a
the
pretty
rest
good...
of the folks out there, if I don't hit your emails this week, I'm now Valente. So I've got this crazy, because I'm not just hiring somebody, I'm hiring somebody who will fit right in with my family.
Yeah.
And I'm figuring out who that fit is, because the people that work here, you will not last. They are going to last. So, I'm going to be Valente until we find...
I discovered that.
Huh?
I discovered that.
Yeah. You don't mess with my people. You know, I go to bat for you a lot.
Yes, I do.
You, Bob. You know I love you.
You've been very long-suffering.
Not suffering. Abbott and Costello, damn it. I mean, we're the yin and yang of retardation.
That was great.
So, no, that's the hard part. So a lot of people, I've been getting we get fired by Hawthorne, everybody wants to go direct, Valente leaves, I become Valente, so now I'm on the floor for 5 or 6 hours a day, pulling orders, and then I get about 3 to 4 hours a day of just emails. So I'm kind of behind on my emails. I'm like a day past, which normally I do same day kind of crap. I'm not struggling, I just don't have the time.
Sure.
And it's spring, so just be patient with me. I'll get back to you. There's a bunch of farms looking at stuff, so we're just hold tight, get on it. We'll be back to you. Don't run away from us. We'll answer you probably tomorrow or Monday. I don't know. I'm tired. I need a weekend.
Well, it's here, so there you go.
Right. I'll see you Monday. You're gonna start picking orders for me, or I'm gonna fire you.
All right, I'll try.
It's good for your back.
Yeah.
Good for your stomach.
I wasn't even good at folding T-shirts. You want me to pick orders?
All I have to do is pick that up and put it on the floor.
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. But you just have to do it about 7,200 times a day.
Well, and also pick the correct thing in the correct amount. That's where I'm going to fall down on you.
That's fine. I mean, well, let me put it this way. If Marcella and Sophia can do it, and they don't even read English, but they're hand English papers and they can pick the order pretty good, I think you can handle it. Yeah, they're
We'll
awesome.
see.
These people, it's funny working with them because they come up to about here on the So this giant man going down the aisles with these two tiny women who are out working. So I'm doing the undercover boss, not so undercover. I mean, how I'm going to help change what they get down there and make their lives easier. So
nice.
The good news of Valente leaving is that we're going to make things a lot better for them.
Outstanding.
Yeah, things get out of control when you leave that position for a year or 5. So I'm back in it. Be patient with me, and we'll be back in a couple weeks for another viewer question.
All right. That's that.
Sweet. Cut.
The OCGFAM show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCGFAM show. See you tomorrow.